All right, welcome to another episode of America Smiles Tips and Tricks. Now in this video, I might not be quite as animated. It's a little bit of maybe a touchy subject. I'm giving an opinion that maybe not everyone will agree with, but I'm going to discuss the comparison of classic white zirconia, something that you've got to infiltrate color yourself, pre-shaded, something you buy that's already pre-shaded, and then multi-layer. And I'm going to give you some very distinct opinions based on what I think. And of course, I'm going to think that I'm right because, well, I'm doing the video and you're not. And also, too, I'm milling 250 teeth a day, and if I'm not right, I'm going to go out of business, okay? So here at America Smiles, we're a membership milling center. People are paying us a membership fee. We help them market, do the marketing and advertising, help them get new dentists, and in return, they get discounts at our milling center. So when I'm doing this kind of a volume and people are paying us a membership fee, I have the added burden of putting out high quality. No one's going to pay me a membership fee and get poor quality, and nobody's going to pay me a membership fee and then overpay. So I've got to hit high quality and great price. The way that I do this is through classic white zirconia. So I'm going to be making an argument on why I think classic white is the most affordable, efficient way to purchase your zirconia. Number one, it's the cheapest zirconia to buy. So when you buy the actual disc, it's the cheapest. Number two, you keep the least amount of inventory because all you got to keep are the various sizes. You're going to mostly use 12 millimeter, so you got to have some 12s and some 14, 16, maybe keep 125 on hand in case you ever need it. So you keep the least amount of inventory. Now it's also the most efficient when it comes to camming, or what we call nesting, and then milling. As long as I've got teeth that all have a common thickness, I can put as many in a puck as I want. I set it in that machine and I forget it. So it's the most efficient for milling. And something else I got to tell you guys, if you can get your milling machine to run for 1 hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, even 3 hours, nobody's got to babysit that machine and wait to swap it out. So it becomes very efficient in terms of milling and milling times per unit. Now, one of the downsides, since I'm pro classic white, one of the downsides is if you've got 2 molars and let's say you got a lower second molar, it's very low volume zirconia. Let's say you have an upper first molar, very heavy volume of zirconia, just overall thicker tooth. If you dip them both in an A2, you're going to get different results. That thicker mass zirconia, that A2, is going to absorb just a little bit more liquid. It might look a little bit darker. That low mass second molar, say number 18, that better be a second molar, it is. That number 18, it's going to amass a lot less coloring liquid. It's going to look a little bit lighter. So one of the downsides is with classic white, you can be a little bit inconsistent. But I tell you what, now I'm going to pitch and I'm going to selfishly run a little commercial for America Smiles. We've got this really, really, really cool system. We call it Incisal Tones. Yeah, I'm going to brag a little bit. I invented it. It's got a blocking agent in it plus a tone. It can have a gray tone, a blue tone, or a violet tone. And it's got this blocking agent. So what we do is, back in the old days when you layered enamel porcelain or layered porcelain, wherever you would layer the enamel, you brush this incisal tone with the blocking agent. So gray or blue or violet with a blocking agent. Then I dip it for say a minute and a half. The dipping can't penetrate where I put that incisal blocker at. So when this classic white comes out of the sintering oven, it looks like layered porcelain. You've got the gradient of the darker chrome at the gum line, kind of a middle grade in the middle, and then the heavier incisal up at the occlusal third. So the classic white, you can get a very, very, very nice blend. Again, the inconsistency, though, is different massive zirconia will produce a different color. Now, let's go to pre-shaded. The problem with pre-shaded is you got to carry all the shades and all the sizes. You can carry heavier inventory. Now, when you mill, you've got to mill all your C2s together. You got to mill all your A2s together. What happens is if you only got one C3 case or C2 case, whatever, and you run that cycle, 15 minutes later, someone better have eyes on that machine. If you don't have eyes on that machine, it sits idle for a half hour. Now people are angry. Hey, who didn't swap out the mill? And you're wasting time. And Billy Bob, he's got to go home and he don't have time to switch out the mill. So you're not as efficient milling one shade and one thickness at a time. So it's far less efficient. But we got that incisal blend thing down. We also invented what we call an incisal reducer. No, actually, take that back. We didn't invent it. We buy it and we modify it, so kind of invented it. It's an incisal reducer. So when you do have that pre-shaded disc, wherever the enamel goes, you brush that on, it actually strips some of the oxides out of there. So since we make the zirconia, we know how to get rid, we put the color in it, we know how to get rid of the color. So you put this in Incisal reducer. If you got an A3, you brush it on, it actually strips some of the color out of it. So technically you can use a pre-shaded disc, put it in your sintering oven, have it come out looking like layered porcelain again. So the positives to the pre-shaded, that gingival third, very consistent. As long as your manufacturer, Genesis material, we think we manufacture it great. As long as the manufacturers get the shades dialed in, you're going to expect the same shade every time, regardless of the weight or thickness of the zirconia. Now let's bring in the multi-layer. This is actually my least favorite. Maybe if you have a single unit, it might look okay to get multi-layer, but let's face it, all of us ceramists, thus artists from back in the 80s, we know how to layer porcelain. We know that you've got this zigzag irregularity to the dentin and the enamel. Well, multi-layer is layered flat. There's not a single natural tooth that has this layer of dentin, this layer of enamel. You don't have any irregularity, so you can't imitate the natural look. Now you have these other factors, and that wherever you put it in the tooth, let's say you have a 14 millimeter disc, but your tooth's only 13 millimeters. Well, you can put it too close to the incisal, too close to the gingiva, and you don't get the right blend. Now, what if you have that bridge that's got a nice curve of speed built into it? Well, you've got a cuspid over here and it's all enamel. You've got a bicuspid over here and it's all dentin, and you got a molar over here and it's all enamel. So you get this curve in here or something that's pitched. So multi-layer is my least favorite. It's the most expensive. I say that if I'm going to mill 250 teeth a day and I've got to put out a great quality product and I've got to be efficient, classic white all day. That's it for today's segment of America Smiles Tips and Tricks.